When I moved to Tokyo, Japan in 2016, prior to arriving, I didn't actually realize that this and this and this was going to become a problem for me. I'd visited Japan many times before, but I was never really diving into the gym scene whilst I was there, nor was I really a sort of person who was going to onsens. So I didn't actually know these issues existed until I had signed for my first apartment, and I didn't realize the paperwork was going to take too long. So I checked into this hostel for a few days whilst I was waiting, and I was happy to see the hostel had access to an Anytime Fitness, which was in the bottom of the building. So I went down there the first night that I arrived, had a great workout, felt fantastic. First workout in about a week since I'd arrived, first proper workout. But the next morning, as I was leaving the hostel to head out for the day, I got called over by the lady on the desk, and she said, Sumimasen, please, next time you use the gym facilities, could you cover your tattoos up if that's okay? I wasn't confrontational. It was a perfectly pleasant, respectful interaction. But upon hearing that, I started to do a little bit of research, and suddenly I was down this rabbit hole of tattoo history, of tattoos being an issue in different establishments throughout Japan. And it's something that I had to consider moving forward. Having made a couple of videos on this topic in the past about my personal experience, I thought in this video I would literally answer the question, why do Japanese gyms hate tattoos so much? And obviously I'm exaggerating there. They don't hate tattoos, but there are some cultural, some historical, and some consideration reasons why they have this no tattoo policy in the vast majority of franchise gyms throughout Tokyo, throughout the rest of Japan. The main reason, the reason that I think most of us who have looked into this topic are aware of, is that in Japan, tattoos have a distinct connection to the criminal world, namely the Yakuza. So in the Yakuza, and I'm not a Yakuza expert here, but these tattoos are a symbol of dedication. They're not a fashion statement, they are a sign, and it is a sign that can make some people feel uncomfortable. When some people see heavily tattooed Japanese individuals, they make those assumptions, and one of the reasons they have this no tattoo policy is to avoid making people feel uncomfortable. Other gym members feel uncomfortable. Gyms like onsens, like public baths in Japan, they want to keep this neutral feeling where everybody is welcome and nobody should feel intimidated. So while someone like myself is clearly not a member of the Japanese criminal underworld, who am I to go to Japan and argue with the fact that these stereotypes, these connections already exist, and why should I get treated any differently than anyone else in Japan, despite clearly being harmless and just trying to be cool? It's all about perception, people's perception of others, which leads us on to reason number 2, connected to number 1, that Japan is a highly conservative society. In many regards, it's very different to the Western attitudes that we're used to of expressing oneself freely. That's not to say there aren't people who don't express themselves in Japan, by all means. Tattoos clearly carry in Japan this sense of rebelliousness, of going against that conservatism, and therefore not just gyms, not just onsens, but also business settings, people will always cover up their tattoos. You won't see a group of businessmen out for dinner with short sleeve shirts covered in sleeves. It's all about being as neutral as possible and not drawing attention onto the individual. Another reason why this stereotype, this association with criminality, with rebelliousness has persisted and managed to maintain itself for so long is because up until recently, 2020 in fact, tattoos were a very legally grey zone. Now, I got my favorite tattoo of all time, this half sleeve, in 2018 in Tokyo. And at that time, whilst you could see tattoo shops as you walk down the street, it was still cloudy whether the artists themselves had the required certification, because up until 2020, they needed a medical certificate to legally perform tattoos. Obviously, many artistic tattoo artists probably didn't have that. So it was a bit of a grey zone, but that was cleared in 2020. Now it is totally legal throughout Japan. 2020 was only 5 years ago. So obviously that association of tattoos in general being illegal is very much ingrained in many people's minds. Now, having said all that, obviously in bigger cities like Tokyo, like Osaka, things are changing, particularly with the younger generation, particularly areas that have larger numbers of foreigners. You can see that tattoos are becoming more common as you walk down the street, more accepted. But overall in Japanese society, that idea of conformity is still number one. I think an easy example of that was during 2020 itself. People wear masks, no questions, no resistance, unlike the West where people focus on their own individual rights. That sort of idea of putting society first, being considerate of others, it applies to things like tattoos, which may trigger certain ideas in their mind. Now, obviously, the title of this video was a little bit clickbaity. I don't think Japanese people in general, nor do non-sentient Japanese gyms, hate tattoos. Much like any society, I think there's going to be people who appreciate body art, they think it's nice, they respect the people who have it, and there's going to be people who it's not their cup of tea. In several of the gyms that I've attended, I've had people tell me, oh, I like your tattoos. Whether they were just being polite or not, I don't know, but at the end of the day, they are not the ones who make the rules, but as gym managers, staff members, etc., they are the ones who must enforce the rules. The enforcement of these rules does vary from gym to gym. So Anytime Fitness, which I would say is the biggest, most popular franchise in Japan, they simply say, please cover your tattoos up, regardless of whether you've got a full sleeve, just a little heart on your shoulder, just cover it up. Whereas another very famous American brand of gym who operates in Japan, once they realized my tattoo was bigger than a certain size, they wouldn't entertain the thought of me joining there, which was kind of frustrating because they are a very good, well-renowned gym. But I only ever trained there once in Harajuku, and at that time, I just covered it up and kept my mouth shut. And yes, there are exceptions. When I moved to Koenji a couple of years after arriving in Tokyo, I was walking through Nakano, which is the adjacent city, one day, and I came across this wonderful place, Muscle Gym. Tattoos are okay, videos are okay, posing is okay. It was a very relaxed, free atmosphere. Until that point, believe it or not, I actually thought the tattoo policy was a legal requirement in gyms, but they told me no, it is the choice of the gym. And obviously the bigger franchises, they are enforcing the policy to think about the masses, whereas smaller franchises, more privately owned franchises, I think they're trying to appeal to maybe a more niche customer, someone a little bit more serious, perhaps like myself, and therefore they don't want to exclude people based on certain criteria. Now, after discovering Muscle Gym, I went on to find several other gyms throughout Tokyo, a couple in Osaka. I haven't visited them all, but I know they exist where tattoos are okay. So my advice for you is, if you move into Japan, if you've got tattoos, if this is something that you've come across, you're a little bit worried about it, number one, do not worry. You'll be able to go to an Anytime Fitness as long as you cover your tattoos up. I guess it really does depend on how big they are. And number two, if you do find yourself in a pickle, there are gyms out there. You've just got to do a little bit of research. I would advise, do your research prior to signing a contract, and maybe you can set yourself up somewhere closer to a gym that is going to accommodate your needs. That's just my personal thing. When I moved back to Tokyo in 2022, I made sure that I was somewhere near that Muscle Gym because I didn't really want the hassle of having to start again from scratch. In conclusion, guys, there are several reasons, not just the links to the criminal world, why these tattoo policies have been put in place in the first place. And whilst I don't expect them to drastically change anytime soon, whilst I wouldn't expect a complete overhaul, if you are heavily tattooed, if you're looking to go to Japan, to train in Japan, to live a great life in Japan, it is possible. Everywhere has tattoo friendly gyms. Not everywhere has gyms, to be honest. In a lot of the Shotengai, which is the local areas usually around the station, you're gonna get stuck with whatever franchise is set up there, whether it be Anytime Fitness, Joy Fit, Fast Gym. It's just probably going to be something to tick a gym box. Whereas if you're a bit more serious, like I say, you might want to do your research in advance and make sure you've got a gym that's going to meet your needs nearby, regardless of if you've got tattoos or not. not, that is something I would advise if the gym is very important to you. Of course, geezers, if you've got anything to add, any tattoo-friendly gyms that might help people in Tokyo, Osaka, or anywhere else in Japan, please feel free to drop them down below. I'm making this video to try and help people, to reassure people, to give people a little bit of hope that all is not lost. You can be tattooed and jacked in Japan and still live a great life. So I hope you've enjoyed this one, guys. Please consider liking, commenting, subscribing. Plenty more videos on the way. And until next time, guys, have a great day. Bye-bye.